is that I ate before watching this movie. If you're watching this review and you've seen this movie, you know why I started out the video this way. I am very disturbed by the ending of this movie. For much of it, I was just like this. I couldn't watch the screen because what? Who allowed that? It was so nasty. Actually, saying it's nasty is an understatement. Excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather. But let me start out with the positives of The Ugly Stepsister. So right away, I was interested to watch this movie because I am a girl who likes Cinderella retellings, and I thought this would be interesting because this is about the stepsister. I was really impressed with the cinematography of this movie. It had these really beautiful establishing shots. It made it feel like that fairy tale, like that storybook, before things turned a little bit dark. And speaking of fairy tales, it even had some harp, fairy, magical sounding music that would happen every so often. And the music I found really enchanting because it reminded me of like, this is a fairy tale. This is, I think, closer to what the Grimm's brothers actually wrote, because fairy tales are originally much darker. It was Disney that made them all puppies and rainbows. So I like that touch there. There was a good contrast between the pastels and the beautiful music and then the really dark concept that is going on in this movie. Because if you guys don't know, The Ugly Stepsister follows Elvira, and she is a girl who is very much sheltered. She has her heads in the clouds. She sees life and love through a very pink filter. And of course, one day she dreams of marrying the prince. The only problem is, though, she has a pretty awful, destitute mother. Elvira is very much treated like the ugly duckling by society. Okay, I am so sorry for the frog in my throat. I keep trying to clear it. I've had to edit and chop this so many times, but my voice is what it is right now. I apologize. I will be back and better for the next review. And also her own mom. So she is put through the ringer in this movie. She has to go through different cosmetic things. The cosmetic things include a nose job and things that are happening with her eyes. And then she finds a very interesting way to make herself be thinner, to lose weight. That alone has very dire consequences for her by the end of this movie. So I think for me, this movie is another entry into the conversation of the standards of beauty, especially when it comes to young women. Everybody can feel a lot of pressure about the way that they look, for sure. But I think when you are a young girl or even a woman of this world, it's very much different. Especially, this is a period piece. She was very much under the pressure where she was this young virgin that had to be married off so that she can get her family out of poverty. I think this movie does do a good job by being pretty overt with just how much she has to change about herself. I think there's a line in this movie where someone even tells her, you know, how you are on the inside, you're working on making that look like you on the outside. So she's very much like fed these things to make her believe like she is doing the right thing. And the tragedy of this is that the more and more she falls deeper into trying to change herself, she is getting pretty happier and happier, even when it comes to the cost of her stepsister, who is Agnes, aka Cinderella. Cinderella is this beautiful blonde girl in this movie, but she's put through the ringer as well for reasons that you will see in the movie, because, you know, she is Cinderella. We all know how her story ends, and we all know how the story for the stepsister ends. My voice sounds so horrible. I have to apologize again. This movie felt very immersive to me. Everything from the costume design and the production design, I felt very much swept me away into believing that these were real people living in this time. And it just really kind of added on more to the fairy tale aspect of this story, even though it gets pretty dark and pretty damn gross. I think there were times where I felt not as engaged and entertained with this, because this is pretty much not a very interactive character we're dealing with. Elvira is very much isolated. I would say the actress's scenes are very much by herself. She does have some scenes with her stepmom and her sister and with Agnes, aka Cinderella, and even very few ones with the prince. But other than a few scenes here and there, it's a very quiet and isolated performance, and there's so many close-ups. It's a very personable film because it's dealing with the inner turmoil that Elvira is going through. I think I would have enjoyed more and I would have gotten more entertainment out of this if they just opened up the world just a little bit bigger. If she had at least one friend that she could have talked to in here, I think maybe I would have been more engaged. It was just a little bit too quiet for me. There are certain things that Elvira does in the movie to certain characters that we never really get a conversation afterwards. We don't really get an interaction and that kind of combative, I guess, discussion that you would get if you find out your sister did this to you. And I just found it kind of lackluster in that sense. And this is being marketed as a body horror. And for some time I was like, okay, this happened here and this happened there. And, you know, yeah, that was gross, but there's just not enough kind of like carnage happening here for me. But then the third act of this movie starts. And at a certain point, I just wanted it to stop. Because I'm telling you, when you see the scene that I'm talking about, you will know when you know it is so upsetting and it's gross, and at a certain point you're just like, all right already, I get it. Like, you showed me nothing up until now for reasons I understand now, because it was just a little bit too much. You know, Elvira has a blood sister in this who is a pretty nice and quiet sister, and I wondered why they couldn't have more scenes together, why they couldn't have more of a loving, talkative relationship. This movie is just like so quiet. All in all, I think this is definitely a one-time watch for me. I just wasn't that invested despite the great performances and great cinematography and great production design. And I believe this is also from a debut director. It premiered at Sundance this year, and I think it was a pretty solid debut. I'm going to give The Ugly Stepsister a 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you guys so much for dealing with the frog in my voice. I am so sorry again. And please, if you're liking my content, please hit subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys next time.